is Dylan White. I've been lifting weights for roughly 6 years and I am 26 years old.
I believe I've been coaching Dylan since 2017, the last year of my master's degree. He wanted me to peak him, and then ever since I peaked him, he liked kind of the science behind the process, learned a whole bunch, and he was also an exercise phys, so he decided to hire somebody who had some degrees in what he had degrees in. I mean, really the peak week for a natural bodybuilder is super simple. You don't have extra variables, so when people say, you know, guys who are enhanced make it easy on themselves, it's actually, peaking's way harder. Peaking for naturals is super easy. Dieting for naturals is super hard. Dieting for enhanced is super easy. So it's kind of a flip-flop little thing.
So I dieted for almost 16 weeks before I started show prep. So I dieted down for 16 weeks, did a maintenance for roughly 4 weeks, and then we started the show prep itself. And that's been 10 weeks long. Honestly, it was a lot easier than previous diets because I cut out all that artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. I ate plain Jane, just broccoli, chicken, shrimp, meal to meal. That was like my vegetable and protein situation. And then carbs, I stuck to potatoes, oatmeal, and rice cakes.
To come peeled on stage as a natural is super straightforward. And then after that, if you want to look full and you want to look quote unquote dry and like the muscles really pressing to the surface, they always have to be very carbed up, full glycogen in their muscles. And then you don't want the little layer of water under the skin. So with people who are natural, you can keep the water, sodium, and everything high into the show. And if somebody's in shape, it's pretty varied approach. If somebody's in shape, they're just in shape. You can, the entire peak week, eat 300 plus carbs. And I believe that's what I did with Dylan anyway. Like Monday, we already had a good 275, 300. Tuesday, raised a little. Wednesday, raised to a little bit more. Then Thursday, Friday, we went to like 500, 600. And just slowly filled out and slightly dropped water toward the very end, just so we weren't consuming in excess of 3 gallons, which is what he was consuming at the beginning of peak week, or 2.5 gallons at the beginning of peak week. Sometimes they'll go to 3 gallons or so, depending on how much sodium they can tolerate. So
I'd say the only hard part for me would be depletion. That's when you're pushing water, sodium, and then carbs are real low. That 5-day period is probably the hardest part of prep.
I generally start off really low with the cardio for most clients. So with Dylan, I don't think we exceeded 4 or 5 days, and that was toward the very end. And it wasn't until the last 2 weeks maybe, just to speed the process up a tad, just because he was coming into an NPC show as a natural pro bodybuilder. We wanted to bring that really natty conditioning to the stage and make sure he could hang with the big boys, because he was going to be, I believe, outsized by a good 20 pounds in the weight class that he's in, or the height class. So we had to bring the conditioning. Cardio might have went up to 50 minutes a day the last week, or 5 days a week for the last week. But before that, it was only like 4 days a week at 45 minutes or roughly around there. So the biggest differences between coaching somebody who's truly a natural competitor, a lifetime natural, and somebody who is on anabolics currently in their contest prep, I would say training volume is obviously a little different. And oftentimes guys are adding in form. And if I work with the guy and he is doing such a thing, you might actually see an increase in the volume tolerance compared to their massing, because the calories don't get cut very much. You go from massing calories to maintenance calories, and then all of a sudden your maintenance calories are now your cutting calories when you're enhanced, because you just added in more stuff. So a lot of guys will do that kind of stuff. If they're just starting off with similar amounts of stuff that they, special sports ups that they were massing with, then you can go into like, the true maintenance, the true deficit. You can slowly work your way down to that, but you also have to supply that anabolic drive. So you don't actually cut your calories as low as a natural guy might. Depending on the natural client, with adjusting thermogenesis and how getting deep into prep, you might have to cut calories pretty low sometimes. I've had natural guys had to go, to 100 carbs or so. I've had natural guys like Marvin, who I didn't have to take below 375 carb or something, and he's 150 pounds on stage. So it really just depends on how well the mass went, how long you maintained before you dieted down, and how well their adjusting thermogenesis kind of is. If it's super adaptive, if their metabolism is not super adaptive. And then with farm, still getting into this, so it's it's very interesting to see the pharmacological side of things, because a lot of clients, they just get leaner. You know, like I said, they add stuff in, they just get leaner on the same amount of calories they were eating before, and it's like, what is going on? So diet is the biggest difference and variable, I would say, because you're still working with training volume through MEV to MRV, and even though they're on a lot of anabolics, you're still gonna have to do a little bit more volume when you're dieting down versus massing if you want to maintain your tissue, and you're still more than likely not going to recover from massing volumes if you're dieting down. So, and keeping that's very important probably for people who are enhanced who are listening to this, because you're going to get on extra shit and you're going to feel like, I can just do more volume. I would look back at your data, see what you did during massing phases, and then sort of maybe try to inch up near that. You're going to feel like you might be able to do more, but you're probably going to injure yourself if you do that for sustained periods of time. So it's not a good idea. So Dylan actually just won the NPC Samson Showdown. It was today. And with that, we plan on, that actually qualifies him for a national level show in the NPC, where he will potentially get a pro card. Winning an overall to NPC show is no joke. And it usually means that you're going to be a top guy at a national show. And he just won the overall. So I foresee Dylan doing very well, if not getting a pro card this year. As a natural in the NPC, he'll for sure be getting one in the near future. And if he wants to do more than one national show, if we don't get it the first go, I'm all for it if he's all for it. And if he wants to keep dieting and going through it, hell yeah. And after that, we see what Dylan wants for the future, really. Just build more muscle tissue and see what we do next year.